Hello and welcome back to A Splash of Paint. Now before we head off to the SAA library in search of another great read, I'm going to show you how to paint part one of a really effective atmospheric rainy day in London. We've got a little red bus there, which we'll do next time. But in this particular section, I'm going to show you the nice monochrome background, just using natural grey. I'm going to start off with a bit of water on a large round brush. This is a 20. I don't want to over soak the paper, but I'm going to dampen it all down over the sketch which I've prepared there. And I want to do as much as I can while the paper is damp, but when it starts to dry, that's when you pull detail through. So look down the edge, make sure it is all pretty covered, but it's not saturated, and that's what's important with this kind of thing. The dampest part of the paper could actually be the top area, because that is the area where I want to get a bit of a sky. So I'm just going to put plenty of water up there, and maybe even a little bit extra at the bottom as well. Then I'll go for the natural grey, which I'm literally just going to sweep in a couple of brush strokes of. So nice and dark at the top, and then just kind of waft it away as you come downwards. At the bottom, try and be more horizontal if you can at the base. But again, try and maintain that dark foreground disappearing off to the distance back there. Then we'll go for a smaller brush, size 6. Clean it off and use the same grey. Just going to get a bit of kitchen roll and just make sure that the brush is not soaking in colour, because in this background area I want to add the misty impression of some distant buildings, and then just drop in some chimneys and just random lines to say there's a building there. Clean brush, wipe it on tissue, and then I want to make it all fade away. So again, all this is done while the paper is still workable. It's nice when you're doing buildings in the background to add a few vertical lines. And again, that damp brush just lets me tone it all in. There we go. Now, obviously we've got Parliament there, which I can pull in. Again, if the paper's damp, that's good, because it gives the impression of separation, out of focus, distance, that kind of thing. The paper is borderline dry at this point, and I want to do it as a solid object. And bring it down. But as long as the colour here at this separation point is slightly darker than the background colour, it'll look as though it's quite clearly forward. I'm just going to use a bit of water because I want to keep a misty atmosphere to this. I don't want to get it all in as a perfect background, because the focus will be on the bus. Again, just using a bit of water there just to blend in all these colours. And then I'll work across to the side. And obviously Parliament's a very, very intricate building. There's all sorts of little ornate architecture and things buzzing around on there, so you can put as much time as you want into that. Just using that little bit of water to make it all fade away. A bit more water just for that side. And then let's go a fraction darker with the colour, and let's try and add this side a little bit darker, just to say there's a bit of light getting through somewhere. And just adding one or two shadowed areas. Again, a damp brush just lets me fade it all away. And then even getting the basic shape of the clock water again. So there's no detail there. It's more of a suggestion at this stage. And then we're going to put a little bit of a wall or a barrier in front of the building. And then also over that side as well. In fact, you could even get the impression of a few figures and things just maybe waiting to cross the road, and street signs and just random nonsense parts of the picture. And then I'm just going to add a reflection, bit of a dry brush, make it look as though the street's wet, very, very dry. I know we've not painted the bush yet, but we will next time, so that will give us something there. And then just a couple of little bits of detail around the bottom there. And I think that's probably a good point to stop at, and we'll pick this painting up next time. Right folks, it's time to join our resident bookworm Henry Malt as he prepares to unleash another colourful title available from the SIA library. Today's book is Acrylics Unleashed by Glyn Macy. It looks from the cover as though it's quite a modern kind of style of work, is that right?
Yes, it is. Glyn tends to use collage and things like sand and shells in his paintings. Quite a lot about texture.
Yeah.
He's very enthusiastic.
Right.
The dedication is, I think, something like, "To you, lovely artist."
Oh yeah.
And it would be annoying if he wasn't able to carry it off, because it's very much his character.
Yeah.
He's an enthusiastic painter and an enthusiastic explainer of painting.
So the fact it says unleashed, does that kind of describe the way he puts it across?
It's about the capabilities of the medium, but actually it goes further than that, because I think it tends to be, you could almost call it painting unleashed in acrylics.
Yeah. So it's quite clever, this, and very different to anything else that people would expect to see in an acrylic book, I suppose, as well.
It's a style that exists, and it's not totally unique to him.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to carry off. But I think he explains how and why he does it really quite well.
It's got a bit of a craft kind of feel to it if he's using other bits as well.
I'm always wary of collage. I did have a theory that if you need to make a quick tax loss, do a book on collage. But I've seen an awful lot of collage, and I've seen a lot of awful collage.
Yeah.
It can be done well. I mean, those people who do it well do it really well. But
is this done well?
That is, yes. Yeah. And in fact, that is really quite interesting, because he's using cut-out shapes to give you the buildings.
Yeah, this is like an Italian.
It's not immediately obvious, and you don't. If you start to look at it and analyse it, then you start to say, well, why is that there?
Yeah.
But when you first look at it, you don't actually notice it, and it seems logical, and those words become part of the texture of the painting.
Yeah, it's very clever. It's very clever indeed. So if you're wrapping this one up as a summary, is this a hard one to summarise in a couple of words?
Shall we say it's creativity?
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up at that, don't we?
Yeah, good.
Thanks for that, Henry.
Cheers, Matthew.
Cheers. Thanks for that, Henry. Glyn's book is certainly packed full of practical instructions, tips and tricks to help you discover how you can use acrylic paints in unusual, creative and surprising ways. A fantastic addition to any art library. Well, time for a little break now, folks, but join us in part 3 when popular artist Keith Fenwick returns to conclude today's acrylic mountain adventure. And leading SAA artist Jeremy Ford shares his top tips for correcting blooming errors in today's practical art bite exercise. We'll see you soon.